In my theory, as most of you know, there are 5 elements of well-being. And what defines an element of well-being is something that human beings pursue widely for its own sake. The first is the easiest one, feeling good, subjective well-being, being happy, having pleasant emotions, having orgasms, being content, being fulfilled. So subjective well-being is the first element of positive psychology. You might wonder why positive psychology just doesn't stop with being smiling and cheerful and merry. And the answer is smiliness and cheerfulness is highly genetic. It's about 50% heritable, and that basically means that there are 3.5 billion people in the world right now who are not smiling, who are not merry, and who are not cheerful. And what we found about PERMA, positive emotion, is that you've got about activities that will increase your positive emotion by about 10%, which is a way of saying you can learn to live in the upper part of a genetically given range of merry and cheerful. But you cannot change a curmudgeon into a cheerleader. You can just make him less curmudgeonly. So there has to be more to what free people who are not oppressed choose. And the second element is flow, Mike Csikszentmihalyi's notion of time stopping for you, when you're completely at home and when you're centered. Interestingly, this is not a subjective state. People after they've been in flow, if you ask them, will say, oh, that was great, I was really happy. But during flow, by and large, 85% of the time, people are not feeling or thinking anything at all. And that defines flow, that you're one with the music. So that's the second element. The third element is good relationships, that people pursue relationships whether or not they bring flow or positive emotion. The fourth element, crucial to corporate life and crucial to education, is meaning and purpose. Human beings want meaning and purpose ineluctably, even if it makes you unhappy, doesn't bring positive emotion and the like. So we are creatures that pursue meaning and purpose. And finally, the fifth element is human beings pursue accomplishment, mastery, competence. That's the theory. And to working hypothesis, nothing finished about that theory. And I'm now going to take you through the present, which is what people discovered about the importance of having well-being. So this is the importance not of being miserable, but of being happy, over and above zero. On average, happy people live between 6 and 8 years longer than unhappy people, holding constant the state of the body. Is that people with high subjective well-being have better social relationships. People like them more. And while misery loves company, company does not like misery very much. Turns out we don't like people who are miserable as much. And this has been shown merely by having people make cold calls to you, either in saying exactly the same words, but either cheerfully or sadly. And they just keep going until you hang up on them. You hang up on unhappy people much more quickly than you hang up on cheerful people. One of the early critiques of positive psychology was that if you're happy and have high well-being, you're just not going to care about the world. There's something about being happy that keeps you from being a good citizen. You have to be miserable to take the misery of other people seriously. There are now about 20 studies of virtuous behavior, and it finds that it's the happy people who give to charity, who volunteer, who are good Samaritans. Depressed people give less to charity, they volunteer less, and they're not as good Samaritans. Creativity. Turns out happy people are more creative at work. And finally, resilience. Happy people, people who have high subjective well-being, faced with divorce, unemployment, death of a child, are more resilient than unhappy people. Happy people recover from bad events. Pessimistic and unhappy people tend not to recover.